Welcome to Three Chords and the Truth, the YouTube podcast. I'm your host, Peter. With me is my co-host, Andrew. Andrew, how's it going?
I'm all right. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. Getting good grades and all that bullshit.
Oh, wonderful.
You know, I played that. You know the song I'm talking about, You Gotta Wear Shades.
Yeah.
I played that song for someone here recently in Australia, and that song never came to Australia. They had no idea what I was talking about, and they were relatively my age, so you'd think that that's a song they should know, but they had never heard it before.
Who sings that again?
Timbuktu, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Yeah. So there you go. A little bit of cultural difference.
Wonderful.
And Andrew is in Toronto, Canada. I grew up in Toronto, obviously. I moved here in Australia when I was in my 30s. That's why I do not have an Australian accent. And it is winter here, and it's nice and cool. How's it over there?
Yeah, summer's finally arrived, so it's
Nice.
26 today. I'm looking out at the lake, and there's sailboats on the lake, and it's nice and sunny. Yeah, it was great. Like, the weekend was amazing. I
Nice.
had a jam-packed weekend, so that was a lot of fun. So, yeah, it was nice to have the weather out. You know, as Canadians, we cherish those 3 months.
It is the best 3 months, isn't it?
Yeah.
I always love like the first like kind of warm day of spring where it could be like 5, 6, 7, 8 degrees. And everyone's just outside because it's not like -4, -5. And, you know, patios start to open. People are in their convertibles. But then come winter, when it comes like 5 or 6 degrees, everyone's freezing and everything shuts down. It's always a funny little thing.
Yeah, it's pretty hilarious.
Yeah. I might be going. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. I was supposed to go camping tomorrow. Now, when I say camping, me and my friend Darren were going to drive to a campground, both in both our cars. And I was going to sleep in my car for the night. But Darren, smartly probably, said, no, let's not do that because it's going to be 3 degrees where we're going to go.
Right.
And so we rented a cottage instead for a couple nights. So that's what I'm doing tomorrow. So tomorrow morning, me and Darren are driving. We're going to go to country Queensland. So we're going to drive for about 4 hours west of here. Not outback, but outback adjacent. And we're going to go camping for we're going to stay in a cottage for a couple of days.
Right. Now, is camping in Australia the same as camping in Canada?
Yeah. Winter camping is a lot nicer here because there's no snakes or anything like that. Summertime, I'd worry about snakes if I was camping. But, you know, depending where you're camping in Canada, you're worrying about bears, right? So, you know,
Right.
give something up for something else, I guess.
I remember as kids going up to your trailer.
Yeah. In Southampton.
That's right, Southampton. Yeah. I was trying to remember where that was. Yeah, Southampton.
Yeah. The mighty shores of the Saugeen.
Mm-hmm.
It was really an excuse for a little parental supervision and just an excuse for us to drink as much as we could. Really.
Yeah, it's always fun having a beer for breakfast. Right?
Yeah. We had a few of those.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The youth. The days of our youths.
Youths.
Well, I tasked you once again with watching another U2 film. This time, we watched Bono's Stories of Surrender, which is on Apple, I think it was. I think that's where we watched it.
It is. I'm being charged for it.
All right. So, we saw the stage show a few years ago. I really enjoyed the stage show. It was, I can't remember what theater it was in Toronto. Do you remember where it was?
Yeah, it was at Meridian Hall, which used to be the old Sony Center, which used to be the O'Keefe Center. And God
O'Keefe
knows
Center, that's
what
where I
is.
remember.
Yeah.
And I really loved the stage show. I didn't know what to expect. I had no idea what the show was going to be. They made us lock our phones in pouches, which is, I think, a good idea so no one was filming it. I guess for this reason, because they were going to do this. I really enjoyed the stage show. This one's a little bit different. I don't know if I'd watch this again, but I find it quite interesting. You know, we don't have to go too in depth into it, but what were your thoughts? Just off the top of your head, what were your thoughts of the show?
Yeah. Do we want to talk about the book tour first and then the movie?
Okay, let's do the book tour. Yeah. So start off with the book tour. Yeah.
Yeah. So same with you. Like, I really enjoyed that show, and I wasn't quite sure how it was gonna go down. Yeah. I remember it was in November.
Yep.
First week in November.
Yep.
I remember I was really disappointed that the books weren't signed.
Yes.
Because they gave out hardcover books. You locked your phone. They gave everybody a book. And I remember years and years and years ago, I worked a book event at Massey Hall do you remember the Irish American writer Frank McCourt? He wrote Angela's Ashes.
Sure.
Yeah. So he did a book reading at Massey Hall. And I remember, I'm pretty sure he signed all those fucking books we brought in backstage at Massey Hall. Because I just remember seeing him at a table, just signing like a madman. Now, it might have been he only signed 100 for, VIP guests or whatever. Right. But I remember the Bono thing. I was a little upset with that. I do remember thinking it was interesting the way the stage was set up with the tables and the chairs, which we'll get into in the movie. He does a bit of that, where the chairs kind of represent Allie and the 3 band members and his father.
And his father,
So, I really enjoyed the book tour or the book reading because he did do music in between, kind of talking about his father and growing up in Ireland and meeting Allie and starting the band.
Yeah, the same with me. Obviously I wanted the book to be signed, but it wasn't. Okay, I can get over that. It's funny. It's funny. We're both, and I didn't know this at the time, we're both into audiobooks, and I've never cracked open that book, but I've listened to the audiobook a couple of times, which is done by Bono. Bono actually narrates the audiobook, and I think the audiobook is a very good version. It's one of my favorite audiobooks that I've ever listened to. And, again, because was listening to the audiobook as I think the audiobook came out about the same time or maybe a week prior to the stage show. I didn't know how it was going to translate. And obviously a lot of the stories that he tells in the book, Stories of Surrender, make it to the stage show, but not all of them. And some of in the stage show itself was a little bit unique to the book, which was lovely. Now, I can cut this out if you want.
Go on.
And I kind of wanted to ask you this at the time, but I guess I didn't have the courage. During the stage show, obviously Bono talks a lot about his father. Now, your father passed pretty close to this. How did that make you feel? And again, if you don't want to talk about it, we can cut this out.
That's fine. Yeah, it happened probably 3 weeks before, I think. He was like the middle of October. So it had only been 3-4 weeks.
Yeah.
And again, he goes into it. You can read the book or listen to the audiobook or watch the movie where he talks about his relationship with his father.
Yeah.
Similar kind of thing, not getting along. It's the typical father-son relationship.
Sure. Yeah.
Me and my old man would meet up at the pub and have drinks and, have a conversation that would turn into an argument almost every single time. And we never figured out how not to do that.
Yep.
So, it really hit home. And I think that's why I enjoyed it so much, because it kind of just brought back a lot of memories for me. And I know you as well. Your dad had passed away a few years previous to this as well. So I think anybody that's kind of gone through the death of a father, the father and son relationship, I think we all have similar kind of experiences with our dads where we he talks about, between becoming a father and becoming a friend. Now, I don't know if you ever became friends with your dad. Me and my old man on occasion were friendly.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. My father was a little bit colder. I can't say I ever became friends with my dad. It's interesting because he didn't speak English very well, and my Portuguese is fine, but it's not my fluent. I don't speak Portuguese as well as I speak English. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I ever really had an honest conversation with my dad. And the other part with my dad too is that he had severe loss of hearing, but he refused to admit that.
Right.
So he couldn't hear very well. So most of the time you were just screaming at him. And because you're raising your voice, you limited your words to just what he could understand.
Right. Now, your dad was a bit older as well, right?
Yeah. So, I don't know what it feels like in my mid-30s here, but he was 50 when I was born.
Right.
So, I couldn't even imagine having a kid at 50. Like, that's crazy. And, and I know I was an asshole. Like, I was obviously... I tormented him and my brothers and, and my neediness as a child. And I couldn't even imagine having the patience for a child at 50. It just blows my mind that happened.
Yeah. There you go. A little insight to everybody.
Right. So, and which is odd too, because Bono was a story. It was always, any time he talked about it, it was always about his mother. And he also wrote a lot of songs about his mother. And she was that ever-present feeling on, I will follow, blah, blah, whatever song you want to talk about. And now to sort of talk about his dad, who, again, as Bono was 14 when his mother died, and all of a sudden he was saddled with these two boys and had no ability to handle, and that gets talked about in the stage play as well.
Mm-hmm.
How he had no ability to handle his, Bono or Paul Hewson as he was at the time. That had to be a big trip on his dad. And then there was like an extramarital affair that came out, and he doesn't mention it on the stage show, which was surprising.
Well, that's right.
Yeah. So, Bono's dad had an affair with his mother's sister, and Bono has a not a stepbrother, I guess a half brother. So she would have given birth to Bono's dad's brother.
Right.
No, Bono's brother, his half brother would have been given. It's confusing. So there's that whole aspect of it too, which is very Irish, by the way. Yeah, it's so weird, the convoluted way that relationship was. And, Bono was probably in his 40s or 50s when he found this information out. But it's still pretty confronting to have a cousin who you think is your cousin actually is your half brother all these years, and that lie or that secret was kept. So that must have been an interesting thing too.
Yeah, that's a mind fuck for sure.
What were your highlights of? Sorry, do you still want to talk about the stage show, or do you want to move?
No, I mean the stage. The book reading was, amazing. Like I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm glad that when you came because you were visiting Toronto that you got the tickets. How did you get the tickets again? There was a bit of a thing through the fan club, or they were really hard to get, right?
They were really hard to get. Luckily, I've been a member of the fan club since probably U2.com first started. So I've been with them for years. So because I've been there for so long and I pay my dues every year, I get first shot at tickets usually. So the tickets were really easy to get. So I just went through the website and got tickets.
Okay. Now let's talk about this fucking movie.
Okay. Yeah. It took me a couple of attempts. I started watching it. Then I had to go to Sydney for a few days to do some work. And then I got back last night about 1:00 in the morning. And I watched it this morning. I watched the last sort of half hour, 40 minutes this morning. So it wasn't it was two different sessions, days apart. And I think that for me tells me a lot if I couldn't watch it from the beginning. I don't know if I'll ever watch it again. I think if you're not a U2 fan, I don't know if anyone would watch this. What are your thoughts?
Same. I did not like it. I really struggled to pay attention.
Yeah.
I really struggled. I mean, a harp, a cello, and keyboards. What more do you need to say? I mean, it was, but it's the usual stuff that he talks about, right? It's religion and a bit of politics. And but one thing that I notice is whenever he does this self-deprecation, it almost comes off as like a bit of a smirk. You know what I mean? It doesn't, I don't know.
Like a wink, wink. I know. Do you know what I'm doing sort of thing?
Yeah. Not even genuine. I don't know. There was just something about it that I just didn't like. And I'm going to, just to veer off for a bit, a couple of years ago, I saw Henry Rollins do a spoken word thing.
He's famous for that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not a fan. I don't like his music. I don't even like his spoken word stuff, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
There was just something genuine about it. So I don't know, like when we saw him on stage do it, it came off amazingly, but when it was filmed, there was just something, I don't know, missing, or I don't know. I can't put my finger on it, but there's something not right about the movie.
I'm going to say that it was definitely filmed for the movie, where you could tell some parts were done not in front of a live audience, but they were just done like on stage and in front of no one. And I think maybe that's where it fell down. Like it just didn't feel like it was live, or it just felt a little bit of artifice, I guess. I didn't like some of the choices the director made with cutting things and then doing voiceovers as he's talking. And, there was that little snippet where he goes backstage, and I didn't understand that. I didn't think that served the purpose that the director thought it was going to serve. I don't know. I think it was a bit of a mess.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think hardcore fans, like where U2 can do no wrong, I think they'll love it. I think. But yeah, I don't think it translated well into the small screen. I don't think it's going to change anyone's mind if you're not a fan and you start watching this fucking thing. And if you can actually sit through it, yeah, it's a mess. It's like Rattle and Hum. Like you said, the backstage stuff, I had no idea what he was what that even was about. Yeah, it was very odd. Very odd. Yeah, I did not enjoy it. So you owe me $12.99.
I'll pay you. I'll buy you dinner next time I'm in town.
Thanks. And the EP that goes with it isn't great either. The Songs of Surrender EP. It's got
I've not
Desire, The
I've not
Showman,
even
Sunday
listened
Bloody
to it.
Sunday.
Yeah.
Don't.
And I know we eventually are going to get there where we are listening to every single U2 recording that there is. So eventually,
Don't remind me.
But I'm not looking forward to it because I kind of like the songs the way they are. I know these are reimagined songs and stripped down versions, which aren't necessarily bad things. But I don't know. It all feels a little self-indulgent, I guess.
Yeah, I remember at the book tour, he opened with, is it I Will Follow?
I Will
Remember
Follow,
everybody
yeah.
got up?
Yep.
Thinking it was going to be a concert.
Yeah.
Like half the audience got up and then he just stops it. And I
Just
thought that was
stopped it.
pretty funny. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my only complaint of the stage show. It was a little bit stop and start with the music. Either play the song fully or don't play it at all. And you can have the cellist and the harpist there and Jackknife Lee, I think, is the DJ. You can have all that, but just like have it as an accompaniment and don't break out into song thinking you're about to rock out for about 10 seconds. So that was probably my only complaint. Other than that, I did love the stage show. I think the stage show is brilliant.
100%.
Yeah. I guess when you get to a certain age, Bono's in his 60s, you do start reflecting back. I hope that doesn't happen to the musically U2. If rumors to be true, U2 are in the recording studio. I think, when you get to that age, you do reflect on your life and mistakes and stuff like that. I'm hoping the music doesn't do that. I think U2 are always at their best when they're a little bit more experimental. But I don't know if they have that in them anymore. I don't know if they are an experimental band anymore. I think they might be not a legacy act, but a band that has a sound, and they're gonna stick to it, I guess. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I couldn't care less if they ever release another album, to be honest. I haven't been excited for a U2 record since I was 5 years ago when I was 20.
Yeah.
But this fucking movie, if you can believe it, is number 5 in the top 10 Apple chart.
Right.
I'm like, that can't be right.
I know that was the other thing I was going to bring up. I know he did a lot of press a couple weeks ago, and he was on like Joe Rogan, as we talked about. He was on Jimmy Kimmel. Like, he did a lot of press. And after watching the movie, it's not a movie for everybody. You have to be a U2 fan. And not just a U2 fan. You have to know a lot about U2 to get this movie. I don't know how it plays to a casual fan or someone who doesn't know the band. If you can't be introduced to U2 by watching this, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, that's why I brought up the whole Henry Rollins thing.
Yeah.
Because the person I went to Rollins with, I don't think listens to his music, but knows him through the spoken word stuff that he does. Yeah. So yeah, and I mean, he kind of converted me into a fan. I enjoyed it, and I went back and kind of watched some of his interviews that I've ignored, and things like that online. But this isn't going to change anyone's mind about Bono.
No, and Bono's always been preachy. And that's always been part of his shtick, and he gets a little bit preachy in this when he's talking about Live Aid and ending hunger, and that you got to expect that if you go into a Bono thing. I don't recall that from the stage show, but maybe I just washed that out of my brain. If he did do that, I can't remember it. I don't know if that's
the whole thing with seeing a guy like that in like a small venue, you're kind of awestruck as well, right? So when I saw Sting play at Massey Hall, or when I saw Sting in his, he brought his play to Toronto, I went and saw it. You're kind of a little awestruck because you're so close to the guy and it's so intimate as well, right? And I think that might have a bit to do with it, but I don't remember him being so smarmy when we saw him doing the book tour, but I'm probably wrong.
Maybe we just weren't, the camera's really close.
Yeah,
right?
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that the camera's just not friendly to, maybe he's much better off at a distance.
Yeah, maybe, in a stadium of 80,000 people.
Yeah.
Making these grand gestures because you're trying to project to the back of the room or the back of the stadium. Yeah, maybe.
I will say his voice sounded great.
Mm-hmm.
It was sung beautifully. And, for someone in their 60s to have a voice like that is pretty unique. Doesn't happen a lot. People tend to lose their voice. Obviously, he's not the same singer he was during the Joshua Tree or Unforgettable Fire and that kind of stuff, but he still sounds great. Like, it was recorded wonderfully and his voice sounded great.
You're not going to make me watch Sing 2, are you?
I've not watched Sing 1. I know. No, let's not go that far.
Just checking.
Yeah, because he plays an animated character in that, doesn't he?
Well, I think so. There's some kind of elephant terror, fucking who knows what.
You know, I think this is where we're both unique because we don't have kids. We don't have to sit through these things. I remember years ago when I was coming in Canada, I was talking to my friend Dave, and we were just talking about, I was just asking him a simple question. I was like, is there any bands you're into? And he goes, no, not really. And he goes, oh, but I've been listening to the Frozen soundtrack, and he has two small girls. I was like, I've been listening to the Frozen soundtrack. Have you heard it? It's fantastic. I'm like, no, I haven't heard it. And he goes, hold on, I'll get my kids to sing you a song. And I'm like, no, that's all right. And they did. They came out and sang "Let It Go." I guess that's the only song I know from that thing. And you know, I guess you had to sort of be a father or be a parent. That's what you listen to. Like, you know, that's what I guess that's how you get your kids to shut up. You play that music.
Oh, you don't tape their mouth shut and lock them in a closet?
No. I think that's the mommy dearest sort of method.
Yeah, it's a good thing I'm not a father.
Yeah, you beat him with coat hangers, that kind of thing. Yeah, I just, you know, that whole Sing franchise, or is it a franchise? I don't know. It's so lost on me because we don't have kids. I guess I never even think about it.
All I know is that fucking song, the song Saved My Life, which is the song from that movie.
Yeah,
is fucking awful.
I can't even say I've heard it. I don't think I've heard it.
Well, you are one lucky motherfucker.
True, I am. That is very true. Okay, what were your highlights of the movie we just watched?
That it was in black and white and I couldn't figure out his hair dye.
That is pretty good.
Yeah. So that was a win.
Yeah. I liked, and I wish he went into a little bit more detail because it's probably the funniest bit when they're about to break up as a band, and Paul McGuinness sort of reads them the riot act. Now, there's a lot more to what he said than is shown in the movie, and I was disappointed when they cut that. And you know, they had to cut things for time. I get it, but that is one of the best things is when he admonishes them for breaking a contract. And does God really want you to break a contract that you've signed? There's a lot more to that story. I kind of wish that would have been in the story.
Yeah, the thing that I never understand about him is that I'll hear other people talk about him and like stories about him, and they're really funny stories. Like you can Google Noel Gallagher. It has a really good Bono story about them going on like a 3-day bender in Ireland. And Noel wakes up with this massive hangover, turns on the TV, and there's Bono, you know, in France with the French president. And, you know, he's just like, how is this possible? I've got this raging hangover from 3 days and he's out there changing the world. Stuff like that I'd like to hear more about.
Yeah.
But it's never going to happen.
No, I think the Pavarotti story was pretty funny too. You know, Pavarotti showing up in Dublin with a TV crew and Larry and Adam are hiding so they don't get spotted by Pavarotti. I thought that was kind of funny. And again, these are very typical stories that happen if you're Bono. Like in the book, there's a really funny story of how he is hanging out at the White House with Obama, and he gets up and falls asleep in one of the bedrooms in the White House because that's what he does when he's had whiskey or wine. I can't remember what it is. Like there are funny stories that happen because you're Bono and you put yourself in those situations.
Yeah, I give it 2 thumbs down. I was not a fan of the movie. Love the book. I thought the book tour was amazing.
Yep.
But yeah, I just could not get into this. And like you, my attention span was 0.
Yeah. Is there anything else on Apple TV that you can watch for the month because you spent $12?
Probably. I'll probably rewatch Slow Horses. Have you watched
you did
Slow
mention
Horses?
that. Yeah. I've never seen it.
Good. It's very good. Yeah, it's Gary Oldman.
I love Gary Oldman too.
Yeah, it's really, really good. It's just about these kind of bumbling spies in the UK, MI5, that have been, you know, kind of banished from the main headquarters. And just their kind of
it does sound
daily
like
tribulations. That, yeah, it's really well done. And of course, the acting's amazing, right? Like, you can't beat Gary Oldman. I mean, I've been a fan of his since, you know, I guess Sid and Nancy when that came out. So.
I think, isn't it Gary Oldman that when he goes back to England, he has to work on his English accent because he's lived in America for so long that he has to get like a dialect coach to help him with his English accent?
That's funny. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, that's like Pierce Brosnan's in that Mobland right now, and everyone's complaining about his Irish accent, and he's like, "But I'm Irish." Like,
the other one too is, do you know who Carrie Elways is? He's in Princess Bride.
Mm-hmm.
So The Princess Bride is like my favorite movie from when I was a kid. And I was here in Australia doing like a Comic-Con. I was when you can get photographs of celebrities.
Yeah, of course. I go every summer.
Right. So I'm the guy taking I actually have a funny story about that in a second. So I'm the guy taking the pictures of people meeting the celebrities, and one of the celebrities that happened to be there is Cary Elwes, and he's in one of my favorite movies of all time, which is The Princess Bride, and I had it in my head that if he ever asked me a question, I was going to go as you wish, but I didn't because I'm not an asshole. But he's
is that something from the movie? Sorry,
that's something from the movie. That's his
okay.
catchphrase in the movie.
Okay.
So I wasn't an asshole and I didn't say that. But he is genuinely like the nicest guy. And like I had a conversation for a few minutes but he's lost his English accent completely because he's been living in the States for so long. So I think he goes back to England. I think he's probably has to work on his English accent as well.
Yeah, I'm surprised you haven't picked up a bit of an Australian accent. When Madonna moved to England and suddenly she was speaking like the Queen.
Do you know the only thing that I do is I say petrol instead of gas now?
Mm-hmm.
And someone made fun of me when I was in Canada last where I said bananas. And they're like, banana, who are you, the Queen of England? Which I thought was quite funny.
When you say it's like a kangaroo in the headlights?
Yeah, it's kangaroos on headlights. Yeah, that's about it. My favorite story from the Comic-Con thing is taking pictures of celebrities. Did you ever watch Star Trek Next Generation?
On occasion, yeah.
Yeah. So Gates McFadden, who played Dr. Crusher
yes,
on the show,
mm-hmm.
she was the first celebrity I'd ever photographed. So people were coming up and getting pictures with her. And I had never done this before. They told me, they gave me the brief as like, you have 6 seconds. That's all they get with her, 6 seconds. You take the photograph, they say hi, and then they're out of there, right?
Now, were you filming this for the Comic-Con convention or for something else? Or what was this?
So I was just taking, you can get pictures taken with celebrities.
Gotcha.
So I'm the one taking the picture, right?
Mm.
I'm working for a company. I take the picture, it gets sent to a printer, it gets printed, right? So when they buy a ticket, they get a printed copy of the photograph, right?
That's what they're autographing.
Right. Well, no, that's that. If you want an autograph, that's different. You have to pay extra for the autograph. This is just a photograph.
Right.
And they told me I have like 6 to 7 seconds, and there's a timer going where I have to average 6 and 7 seconds between people. And sometimes these celebrities like to have a chat with them. They do like odd photographs. They do like, character posed photographs and stuff like that. So like, I have to keep that in mind. I have to try to move the line along. Sometimes like, these things can get hundreds of people. Now I'm in Brisbane, so that didn't happen. They're like, I think I was averaging about 11 seconds and they're like, don't worry about it. There's only 40 people in line. But at New York or San Diego, where there's like 500 people in line, you have to keep this fucking line moving, right? So I'm there with Gates McFadden, my first celebrity that I ever photographed, and I do my thing. I was like, okay, looking here, all right, looking here, smile, and I take a picture. I was like, all right, looking here, smile, and I take a picture. Then there's a bit of a lull, and then she comes up to me and goes, please don't tell me to smile. I do this a lot. Just take the picture. I'm like, okay, that's fine.
Hilarious.
So I thought that was pretty funny because, she was right. I'm coming in new. She does this like constantly. So yeah, so I stopped telling her to smile. So it was fine.
In Australia, are they Trekkies or are they Trekkers?
Oh,
that's a big debate in the Star Trek community.
Okay, I had no idea. I always thought they were Trekkies, but maybe they are Trekkers. Yeah.
No, I forget what the differences are because I'm not a fucking nerd.
The other one I remember, he was on a vampire show, and I don't remember his name, but he was like the best looking man I've ever seen in front of me, like ever. And he came in there, and he was like,
"Oh, I'm offended."
Yeah, I know, right? And he came in, and he goes, I'm so hungover. Like, we had a really rough night, and I feel terrible. I'm like, oh shit, yeah, I can imagine. I was like, do you mind just stand there? I have to take a picture to make sure the lights are working and stuff like that. And he stands there and he smiles to take a picture. And then I look at the back of the camera and I was like, that's the nicest photograph I've ever taken in my entire life, you fucking asshole.
Yeah, good looking people always look good looking. Yeah.
He actually made me laugh because his sister. Have you ever seen True Detective?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So in the first series of True Detective, his sister was in it. She's the one that plays with, has an affair with Woody Harrelson in the movie. I don't know if you remember.
I don't, but okay.
Right, and so True Detective was a weird show, and so I started asking questions about it. It was like, hey, your sister was in True Detective, and I started asking questions about True Detective, and then he goes, I'm going to stop you right there. She got naked in that show. I've never seen it. I was like, yeah, that's fair. Yeah. See,
Hilarious.
this is how much we enjoyed the movie. We're more talking about Comic-Con in Brisbane than the movie.
Absolutely. Can we talk about kangaroos next?
Well, I'm going camping, or I'm going in a cottage, so I should see some kangaroos coming up.
Wonderful.
The other thing we're going to see is emus. Apparently, where we're going, there's a lot of emus.
Oh, okay.
So there you go. There's
Yeah,
some.
I haven't been camping in a while. Can't remember the last time I went camping. I think I went up to Algonquin.
Oh, that's nice.
We're in on the lake, but
I love Algonquin.
it's a nice one.
Yeah.
It's a national park, people.
It's a huge national park. Yeah, the size of like a city, I think. Well, that's about it. Any other thoughts of Stories of Surrender before we go?
Nah, but I got a quick story for you. So I went to see Oscar Peterson Centenary Tribute on Massey Hall. Right. So I know this is a YouTube podcast, but for those who don't know, Oscar Peterson is like a legendary jazz pianist who born in Montreal, lived in Toronto, actually lived in Mississauga for the last 30 years or so, right? He lived on Mississauga Road.
Oh, Christ. Okay. I didn't know that.
So I went to that concert, which was very interesting anytime I go to a jazz show, because I go to them quite a bit nowadays, and it's definitely an older crowd. So I feel young when I go to these fucking things. It's great. It's funny. Today I went to go see if there were any clips online of it on YouTube. What was I thinking? Of course there's nothing. Like there's nobody there who's even had to operate their fucking phone.
Yeah, it's not the crowd for it.
Yeah, it's not the crowd for it. But the highlight of that was Oliver Jones, who's also a world famous jazz pianist from Montreal. Yeah, was taught piano by Oscar Peterson's sister, who taught jazz, I think classical piano actually in Montreal. And he did Oscar's famous song, which is "Hymn to Freedom," which was a song about the civil rights movement. And actually, they played it at Obama's. I think it was his first inauguration.
Okay, yeah.
So, and I had seen Peterson years ago at a jazz fest, and this is when he kind of had a stroke. He got really, really sick, and basically had played with one arm. And this was at Meridian Hall as well, Sony Center, where we saw the Bono book tour. And the guy I was with, it was so emotional and so amazing to watch him play the piano that my buddy started to cry, which I've never been at a concert with somebody who's cried. I'm not tears of sadness or anything, but like joy, like how amazing it was. So again, it just kind of proves like how great music can be sometimes.
Yeah.
And it was such an amazing concert, like to see this 90-year-old man, this guy, Oliver Jones, come out, he's got his cane, he sits at that piano, man. And it's like, everything's changed. Like it was amazing.
Yeah. No, you're right though, because, I have this argument with AI, where AI are writing books and poetry and writing movie scripts, and I'm still, shopping, I'm still working hard over here, where AI should be like just doing all the hard stuff, and they should let humans do poetry and arts. And billions of dollars are spent every year on music and art that, it's almost like a necessity that humans need to survive. Like, if we look at like cave paintings, when they were painting caves because they had some kind of imagination that they wanted to share with the world. It's so important, and there's so much shit going on around the world right now that is probably and this has been said millions of times before, but we need it more now than ever. And and that's kind of true. It's it's what's makes life worth living. Especially when you watch the news and you're inundated with all the bullshit that's happening. It's we need the art world right now. It's more than ever.
Yeah, and in the afternoon we had gone to the Rex Hotel, which does live jazz. That's what they're famous for, right? They do it twice a day. And, they had like a big band actually in there.
That's awesome.
I think it was like 14, 15 people on stage. They crammed into the front of of that tiny little bar, and it was packed. And it's a cheap day out. To sit at the front row, I think is $15. To sit at the back is $10. Yeah, that was pretty amazing too, just to see these guys, these gigging musicians. They're probably all in their late 60s, early 70s, doing their thing. It was pretty. It was a great Saturday out.
You didn't get up to play the drums or anything?
I'm sober nowadays.
That's true.
Sober.
Do you know what to go on another complete tangent, because you sort of reminded me of something. I was listening, we were driving with Angie, and I think Deep Purple came on. We were listening to like a 70s rock mix, and a Deep Purple song came on, and the band was just jamming. And that is sort of what's lost on modern music. No bands can really jam anymore for like 5 or 6 minutes and make it interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lost art form. Like that was a staple of music when we were growing up. Is bands that could just fucking play, and that's not a thing anymore. And it's really sad. It really pissed me off and saddened me.
Yeah, it ain't a thing with you too either.
No, they don't jam anymore. It's just the song, isn't it? And there's no, if you look at like a song like Exit, that's a fantastic jam.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes the song so beautiful and so dark and mysterious, but that's gone. No one wants to hear that anymore.
Spoken like a true old man.
Right? Yelling at clouds.
The two Muppets, or what were their names? Guys in the
in the balcony.
Guys in the balcony.
There we go. Okay, so next week we're doing Octung Baby, one of the greatest albums of all time. You excited?
A little bit.
Yeah.
That'll be the last time I get excited on this podcast.
Not even for Zeropa?
I got to give it another listen. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Now, do you want to do Octung Baby in full? Do you want to split it? What do you want to do?
Yeah. Whatever you prefer. I'll give it a whirl a couple of times. I'll even listen to the
let's
limited edition. And
let's do it in full. I think that was the first CD I ever bought, and so sides stopped being an issue where you listen to side 1 and side 2. So let's keep in the spirit of that and just do the full album.
Perfect, yeah, because I bought it on cassette tape at the HMV in Oakville, of all places. I do remember going out there the day of it came out. So anyways, we'll talk about that. And yeah, one of the first shows that we went to together as well.
Yeah, and that was how we became friends. We'll talk about that story. How you hated me when you first met me.
Oh, did I?
I remember it fondly.
Things haven't changed, Pete. Things haven't changed.
The story of how you met me and you did not like me.
Okay, I'm curious to hear this because I barely remember, to be honest.
No worries. All right. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, man. Have a good week.
You too.
Stay safe camping.